about places. Or if you surveyed communities even at the household level, who bears the benefits and costs, and so on. So the thing that we're starting to see as our integrated knowledge product is not the WDPA in its inherent data as it currently is, but Protected Planet, which embraces this wider concept that we're goal-oriented, we're trying to influence decision-making. So I just wanted to flash this up. This is not a final statement, but it's the sort of thing we're thinking about that is built up of information. And so a quick way, just as we go for coffee, would be to say, we're trying to build a quality database that meets user needs. We want to explore, including through integration, how protected areas are effective in meeting societal needs. We want to connect to the constituency that actually cares about that, and we want to influence the outcome that would see conservation targets achieved as well as development goals. So that's our ambition, and I thought today was a good day to paint that ambition, but then to go back to tin tacks and say, okay, let's take the first nifty step. Well, let's do an overlay analysis and get it right. Maybe that would be a good place to start. Okay, thank you.
So thanks, Trevor. The colleagues from WCMC want to add a few things before you run? Now we can take questions from everybody else after tea and coffee. It's very interesting to learn about all these plans to collect more data. So I just in your remarks, maybe you could just address how concrete these plans that Trevor has presented are, because this is very interesting. Very ambitious, by the way, too.
Okay, small babies, bite-sized steps, like you said at the beginning. I was going, we could talk about it a little bit, but I don't know if you want coffee or, we do have to run.
Just give us a flavor, so we can sort of flesh things out later.
Okay, well, you know, I've been at the Center for 5 years, and we talked about these kinds of things 5 years ago, about how you can connect to the species, how you can connect to management effectiveness. So these concepts aren't new, and I think we're moving along that trajectory of getting closer and closer. So I think, you know, we are in that process, but it will take a bit more time. And we're still sorting out WDPA, getting full staff in there, trained, and Tom's done an amazing job. So much of the work, you know, she's doing a workshop tomorrow on just doing review of data. So data quality is very important, and we're getting through that process right now. So I think it's quite stepwise, but as these other tools are being built, and they're being built interoperably, if that's a word, then there is more opportunity. So when the data exists, like we heard about invasive species, it makes it that much more easier to link them. So what I was going to talk about is just briefly, so people are aware, in addition to the World Database of Protected Areas, some of the data doesn't exist so far. So we also need to be generating that. And one of the other products we're working on is the IUCN registry, which is on indigenous and community conserved areas. And I wanted to just mention that just so people in the room are aware that WDPA does focus on all governance types of protected areas, but there are challenges with that IUCN definition of protected areas where the conservation is the primary objective, but there are other types of conservation areas and that other effective means that Trevor pointed out. So we're working under a process to do that that's also integrated with the WDPA, but takes into account those communities who want to provide information, but it's not accessible to the world, but it still will be collected and compiled, and it can give us opportunities to understand how well some of these targets are being reached. So it's just sort of an add-on, building on the knowledge that we've already had from all these years of managing the WDPA. And I think Siobhan might want to just add about the validation process as well.
So I'll just say a few words. Obviously, the database of WDPA was started in 1981, so a lot of the data is historical. We still have lots of data gaps. And the number of protected areas at the moment is 200. over 200,000 now. So it's a big job just keeping that data up to date. There's so many new protected areas created each year, redesignated, delisted, etc. We just did an update from Australia, for example. We did that last update 2 years ago, we've just done a new one this year. We added 800 new protected areas and took out 200 of their protected areas. And obviously Australia is a big country, but that just gives you an idea of like, the challenges we're facing. In terms of validation, as I mentioned, we're doing some expert reviews and we're trying to roll that out a bit more. And we'd very much like sort of WCBA members to get more involved with that. In relation, so that sort of covers a little bit about that build objective that Trevor has up there on the screen. In terms of exploring and working on the effectiveness of protected areas, we're looking at re-engaging with that database that exists on the MET assessments that have been done. Protected Planet, obviously that was launched a couple of years ago as a new way of getting users connecting with the database online and creating more global constituency that way. So I'm just going to leave it there, I think, because I think we all want to go for coffee, but I will be around for a bit longer. I know Colleen has to rush on.
Good, thank you.
So,
that's very helpful. I'm just going to suggest one action point at this point, which is this is very revealing to, I'm sure, many of us in the room of these ideas, which are great. But what might be good is if every knowledge product just writes 2 sides of the paper on the plans for the next quadrennium in terms of what they want to achieve. In the sort of the practical, technical, development plans for the product itself and the integration plans, which we're going to have a go at after we've heard about the individual products. We're going to think about that a little bit more. So, I mean, I'm not talking about a document that only Akbar would understand. I'm talking about a document that I will understand, and other people who are more, less techy than me. Do you see what I mean? To sort of really say, okay, the WDPA has this, and we want now to collect this. Because this is very ambitious, it's great, but it's very ambitious, and it may take a while. And like with the globally based species database, it's going to be a trade-off, what do we do first? What does it make sense to pick off first as a bite-sized chunk? So maybe we can come back to that idea. But anyway, I'm sure everyone's desperate right now for coffee or tea. So thanks very much. Please come back in 15 minutes.